All right, we are live according to YouTube. Welcome everybody to the first episode of the campaign game for a hot dry season, Operation Attleboro, coming soonish from Legion War Games. I have with me the designer of Hot Dry Season, Patrick Mullen. Hi, Pat.
Hey, how you doing, Gary?
I'm doing great. And Pat has seen fit to provide us with the most exciting possible content tonight, a PowerPoint presentation.
Isn't that awesome?
So we're going to start with some actual prepared background on the campaign for those like me who really don't know a whole lot about it other than what they have heard in these videos so far.
Before we get going, can everybody out there hear us? Both of us? Just somebody comment, say, "Hey, I can hear both of you," and it makes Gary and I feel much more.
I will feel very warm and cozy if everybody can hear us. That would be cool.
Yeah, it's the point of this is to really just talk about like the framing and the history, and Michael Pankowski's back to hear more about the
Very
game.
good.
Michael, can you hear Gary and me? Can you hear both of us?
But he can hear both of us talk about the game, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So okay.
There we go. Very
Yeah,
good.
all right, excellent.
We
all
are
right.
good to go and confirmed.
So yeah, well, just gonna do a overview of the situation. Yeah, this is about the history, the historical situation, and how history then translates into game from the campaign standpoint. And so just gonna go into that for a little bit, and we'll stop for questions every now and then, and see how everybody's doing. So let's start with the first slide, Gary. I'm gonna react to this is the title slide. What you see before you is the game cover. And that's actually, Gary was asking, that's the actual army map to scale with the hexes before I started to do the terrain analysis and actually turn it into the game. So, all right, so here we go. So, as we start, I got to remember to say next slide. So, yeah, we see before us the strategic situation at the end of summer 1966. And as you take a look at it, you'll see up there in Cambodia, that's where about 200 miles from the South Vietnamese border there in Cambodia was Cosvin, the central office for South Vietnam, as well as sitting with them is the B2 front, which is basically the core level headquarters for the NLF, National Liberation Front, controlling basically pretty much the whole area you see in front of you. And they were sitting with Cosvin. Cosvin was really running the war in that southern part of, you see 2 CTZ on the map, and this 3 Corps, which is really the area that a war zone sees in, and a little bit of 4 Corps. We in the South Vietnamese obviously divided up this country into these core tactical zones. That's the CTZ, core tactical zones. But for and that's really from an ARVN perspective, their cores. But that's kind of how Cosvin saw it. Is the B2 front controlled this area, and Cosvin controlled the war from this. Basically, was in charge of the North Vietnamese Communist war effort from this area south into the Mekong Delta, which would be going southwest off your map. Okay, so I have that there. We've got Cosvin and the B2 front, and you see, really in an abstracted way, I say sanctuaries. And so what's happening is kind of north of that map, that is where where we can't, of this map where we couldn't see it, the Ho Chi Minh Trail comes by that area of Cambodia. And I call them here sanctuaries, but they're base areas. They're actual logistical boxes off the trail that were set, that the NLF ran in these areas in Cambodia adjacent to South Vietnam. So that's their main supply route for personnel. Some units moving out of South Vietnam to refit would go to those areas. Supplies would come in from those areas. Units would come in from those areas. So from an NLF perspective, that's the starting point, is where does your supply go? And so you see I got those little arrows, and you see War Zone C kind of outlined in red with that big red box around it. War Zone C was the logistical hub for all NLF operations you see in front of you. Okay, so that's why I got those big red arrows going there. And they come in from there. There's some other base areas, and you see with the smaller arrows coming out of it, going to that Warzone C, Warzone D, which I'll touch on in a second. They're just less productive supply and infiltration routes due to geography, due to the ability to infiltrate through the area, friendly populate. Many factors add into that, but that's like a lesser supply route. The main way supplies are getting in and being stored before being dispersed, and units are being moved in and dispersed into this whole region is through that Warzone C. Very important area to the NLF. So as we walk down, you see there's a thing called MR4. That's once again, how the NLF looked at this region. Military Region 4 was the headquarters responsible for all operations in the Saigon area, north of Saigon, and you see pushing into 4 core tactical zones. You see those arrows I have projecting off are roughly showing the areas where they're running operations. They're supporting local guerrillas, they're conducting local military operations, they're moving supplies, they're conducting ambushes, they're trying to deny area to the South Vietnamese government. Okay. As well, some supplies get moved because it's such a prodigious supply route from those sanctuaries through Warzone C. Supplies and personnel also get moved to and from that MR4 dot to Warzone D. Warzone D it's a base area, but it's not this main supply hub like Warzone C. It's more of an area where units are organized and operate to then conduct operations. You see where the arrows emanating from that dot go to. Southern 2 core tactical zone towards the coast there in Binh Thuy province through Xuan Loc up towards the border. So there are indeed some PLAF EC main force participating in these operations, but they're also supporting, delivering supplies, delivering guidance, delivering equipment to local forces. Okay? So you notice MR4 is exactly in the middle of what is on the map presented as it's kind of hidden by all the graphics, but the Iron Triangle. Iron Triangle is just north of Saigon, and it's an area that's been a destabilizing thorn in the side of the South Vietnamese regime since 1962. So I talked the end of summer 1966. U.S. forces began to arrive in the summer of 1965, but ground forces began to arrive like a steady drumbeat throughout late 65 and early 66. And so the U.S. graphics you see here we have the 1st Infantry Division is operating in Bin Long province and is conducting operations where that little blue shade is. They're trying to defeat main force units. They're conducting local sweeps. Some of the operations are very small battalion level. Sometimes they're large division level operations, but they're generally focusing right now on that area. Their primary nemesis that they're countering, that I'll get to in a second, is the 9th PLAF Division. So that's that big red one, 1st Infantry Division. The thing that looks like a lightning bolt and a pineapple is the 25th Infantry Division. They're based out of Cu Chi, which is covered up. It's on the map, but covered up by that little blue dot. And they're basically conducting operations trying to pacify and suppress NLF operations in the Iron Triangle, where that Military Region 4 main forces are operating in, tunnels, bunkers. It's a very well prepared mini base area kind of to conduct operations against Saigon and the vicinity around Saigon. And the whole division is just parked there doing multiple operations trying to sweep the area. But as MACV had been conducting these operations, they had done a couple of sweeps with the 1st Infantry Division in late 65, early 66, and as recently as late spring 66 through Warzone C with the 1st Infantry Division. But they're large brigade-size sweeps, one division-level sweep, and they would go in and they would try to engage the enemy. There weren't enemy there. They didn't find many caches, and then they'd go back to their base area where they're doing these persistent operations I have reflected there. So MACV decided, look, the way to disrupt and try to defeat the problem set presented to us by these communist operations we need a permanent presence in Tay Ninh province, and that'll allow us to disrupt Warzone C consistently. So they sent that thing that looks like the symbol is actually a fuse that's lit on 2 ends, so like a charger fuse, like a sapper from the 19th century. That's the 196th Light Infantry Brigade. They've just arrived there in August of 1966, having been in country in Vietnam for all of a month. Now, going up to the 9th PLAF division, you see up there north, this really does a good job of displaying the function of what the VC main forces, the PLAF in this game, their function is. They're not conducting local guerrilla operations, trying to engage in population control and deny areas to the South Vietnamese government. They're the big stick. So they're doing two things. They're going in and launching attacks in these areas to defeat pacification efforts. Defeat ARVN self-defense forces, ARVN regular forces, and then they would go in and launch these attacks, and then they'd come out, and the U.S. would chase after them. Sometimes they'd launch some ambushes or launch an attack with the idea of diverting the U.S. from a location. But when they need to pull out and rest and refit, they've taken some losses after drawing the elements from the 1st Infantry Division into an ambush, they pull back into Cambodia and refit. So their arrows kind of symbolize those activities. They're moving through those 3 provinces, basically, Tay Ninh, Bin Long, and Phuc Long, coming in, doing activities to complement the ongoing process by Cosvin and the B2 front to try to bring this area under NLF control, defend those operations, feint, draw out the U.S., conduct some ambushes, and then pull back. They're the big stick. A good way to think of the Viet Cong main force, the PLAF, is they're providing overwatch for the Maoist guerrilla war. Okay, so anyway, next slide. Let's go to the next slide.
All right,
and see if there are any questions so far.
So this looks like it corresponds to the actual game map area.
Right. So this is the operational situation as the campaign begins. So before that was like strategic background to what's occurring, right? So here we actually see the game map. It's all of Warzone C. So let's start with the Special Forces camps. So you see 4 Special Forces camps in front of you. Those, did little mini pentagons. 2 of them have been constructed in the last 9 months. That's Camp Tri B to the far left and Camp Minton to the far right. Before, from 1964 onwards, there was a camp at the top of Nui Ba Den and Camp Suida just over to. So as an effort to try to interdict, disrupt, deny these infiltration lines to the NLF, as well as this whole map is a covert logistics hub for the B2 front, right? And deny that as disrupt those operations. They've constructed 2 more camps, which are starting to put a crimp, annoy Cosvin. It's making those infiltrations into country and movement of units out of country for refitting, recuperation, replenishment more difficult. So those are there. You see Tay Ninh West, I've used a big pentagon. That's where the 196th Light Infantry Brigade is based out of. So you see a little arrow pointing to that. Before I talk about the Communists, which is the offensive itself, up to November the 1st, 1966, the 196 has been doing search and destroy operations in those areas that we see there. And as a result of intelligence found October 30th, little star, they actually discovered quite a big cache with a lot of documentary information that indicated multiple cache sites in a cache zone to the north they would have to look for, as well as the fact that there indications in the documentary intelligence that there might be a PLAF main force presence there. So that intel is going to drive them to do a search and destroy operation into that area, hence the arrow that says intel. And so in order to get that done, you see I got the 25th, which is way off map to the south, but you see there's the Pineapple, and they're giving an extra battalion to the 196 to reinforce them in order to do this effort. They're available on, so we've got 3 battalions from the 196 Brigade, and we've got 1 battalion that's OPCON to the one under operational control of the 196. Let's reinforce them from the 25th Infantry Division. And the battalion's the 1st of the 27th Infantry, Wolfhounds. So that kind of deals with the U.S. situation. Now, during the summer, the Politburo had decided that they were going to launch an offensive into Warzone C. With reports that the 196 was beginning to arrive, kind of solidified their plans. Cosvin wanted to destroy as many of these special forces camps as possible, and isolate, draw into ambush, and isolate U.S. regular units in the area. There's really no ARVN presence. This has been a denied area to the ARVN for about 2 or 3 years. So that's what they're planning to do, is an offensive to kind of drive up here, disrupt the U.S. efforts that are going on there, so they can maintain its use as what they've used it for the last 4 years, a main base area in close proximity to Saigon and the rest of 3 Corps. So the forces they've devoted to this operation writ large is the 9th PLAF Division. They've reinforced it with the 101st PAVN, People's Army of Vietnam Regiment. That's a NVA in popular nomenclature. So it's the operational force is 4 regiments under 1 divisional command. As well, there's some local forces in the area that I haven't shown on this map that Gary can deploy what he wants. But you see, basically, on the hexes, when we see the actual game map, those areas are roughly the areas Gary could deploy those units. The 273rd PLAF Regiment, the 101st PAVN Regiment, and 9th Division PLAF assets, which could also be parceled out to the 273rd or the 271st. You see up there to the right, to the east. Now, an interesting case in the game is the 272nd PLAF Regiment. That is the best regiment that Colonel Cam has. It's the best regiment in the division. But historically, for reasons lost to time, he sent that regiment, if you go back a slide, Gary, off this map to an area just inside that blue circle of the 25th Infantry Division. The red area is the map area, that red box, right? Outside of that, 20 miles south of the map, to attack a regional forces camp that was very unimportant. And nobody knows why, okay? That's just what he did. So, go back to the next slide. There's a chance in setup, and we'll see as we talk about setup and start going from history to the game, that this unit may arrive beginning after the campaign begins, really on the eastern side of the map. They're to the south, but the infiltration area comes in from the eastern side of the map. And so if they arrived as reinforcements, they would arrive within 5 hexes. They would pop up there. There's no World War II style, entering from a hex edge for the communists in this game. If they arrive on a turn, it's just within 5 hexes. They could show up behind a U.S. unit if U.S. unit decided to hug the edge of the map to get after them. But through chit play, and we'll talk about that in a bit, there's a possibility that the 272nd could also start on map with the other forces. So hence the arrow from them pointing to 2 question marks. Where will they set up? So let's see. Do we have any questions yet so far? Okay, no questions so far.
Not so far.
We'll keep. Any questions from you, Gary?
Not so far. Not pertains to the presentation. No.
Okay. All right. So next slide. So now we see concept become the game. So you guys can make out. It's a little difficult to see, but they're all. I've set up basically the setup parameters for the U.S. are just like the parameters we saw in that concept map. The 196 Light Infantry Brigade can set up in and around Tainan City or in that area they were conducting search and destroy operations. And Special Forces units can set up in those Special Forces camps or within 5 hexes of them. And you see I've done just that. And Gary, on this, the big map, can set up those forces and it's going to have those same strictures. And I have the intel arrow here because it's pointing at what in the game is a concept that becomes important, which is called the cache zone. Okay, so here that intel is directing me, and we'll see through carrot and stick and other things to go into that cache zone and start looking for caches. Okay. Any questions about that from anybody?
Bearing in mind that the stream will take about 45 seconds to catch up to where we're talking, so we might want to just take a moment, everybody breathe, relax.
Yeah, they're about a minute behind us. Thank you, Dan Eidelbach. So they've caught up to the map, so we're at least that far. So let's see. All right. So next slide, we see the victory conditions. And the map art, if you're curious, is we have the NLF flag to the right, and that's actually the MACV, Military Assistance Command Vietnam shoulder patch, right? So U.S. victory point awards are pretty basic. They get 1 point accrued as the game moves forward for every step of PAVN or PLAF destroyed. Not local forces, just PAVN or PLAF. They get 3 points if they destroy a PAVN or PLAF headquarters unit. They get 5 points per MR4 staff ground unit destroyed. What the heck is Pat talking about? All right. They get 5 points per 82nd logistics ground unit destroyed. What the heck am I talking about? And lastly, they'll get 6 points if the Warzone C support complex is destroyed. Well, let's talk about all those things for a second, then we'll probably go back to a previous slide, Gary. Look at maps. So the Warzone C support complex, there are bunkers, as anybody who's been watching so far in the game, that are hidden. And there were multiple, tens, 20s of poured concrete sited bunkers found in this region over the years. Many during Attleboro and many afterwards that were obviously constructed prior to Attleboro. But the Warzone C support complex was an actual underground hospital, basically a support area capable of supporting core level operations, but in South Vietnam. Practically speaking, in the game, if a unit is destroyed for the NLF, they can only be reconstituted in Cambodia. So rebuilding, not giving replacements, but bringing back a loss. Okay. However, Warzone C support complex is an area on map where the NLF player can do that as well. So let's talk about those MR4 staff ground units and 82nd logistics ground units. Gary, let's go back to that strategic situation map.
This one.
Yep. The big, it's a strategic situation, end of summer 1966.
We're here.
All right. So one of the things we'll see in terms of reinforcements and how reinforcements work in this game is eventually, during this operation, the NLF evacuated the Iron Triangle of all main force assets. So that was, at that time, involved a PLAF regiment, so yet another regiment, 2 PLAF battalions, and command and support cadres important to operations that they evacuated, and they were supposed to evacuate to Cambodia, which takes us through our map area. That's their evacuation route. And we'll talk about why that happens. But what it means is there are these important staff and command cadres hidden amongst the PLAF forces that are trying to get to Cambodia, that the U.S. gets significant victory point awards, bonuses for destroying. And I also said 82nd Rear Logistics Unit, Rear Logistics Group units. To operate all these cache zones and sites and bunkers and move supplies in and out and keep them hidden and everything isn't just a bunch of porters. There are certainly porters involved, but there also were like Opel Blitzes, trucks, hidden equipment, hidden personnel, very specialized task maintaining all this stuff. Those personnel eventually in the operation were ordered to evacuate to Cambodia. One of the things, so the U.S. gets, once again, high value victory points for destroying that logistics capability. It was a key goal of the U.S. to destroy them, and a key goal of Cosvin as this campaign developed, to not let those guys get destroyed. So, all right, let's go back to those victory points conditions.
All right, here we are.
All right, so for the NLF, you see a laundry list of stuff, but what you see is they basically get points like the U.S. does for killing the U.S. and specialized, like mechanized, motorized, artillery, etc. Steps destroyed give them even more victory points than just normal U.S. footsteps. Then there are also these specialized units like the MACV training team that in the game kind of serves as a headquarters for the Arvin self-defense units, defense forces that are there. The ASA detachment, those guys on top of the mountain doing the communications intelligence missions. those guys are worth premium points for the NLF to destroy. They really hurt a U.S. capability and will prove a big propaganda coup if those guys are wiped out or rendered combat overrun, shall we say. As well, the NLF gets an extra award just per unit destroyed. So that's in addition to these other awards. So, like, let's say Gary destroys the ASA detachment or a headquarters and gets 8. He also gets a 2-point bonus because he destroyed a unit. So that really turns into 10 victory points.
Ooh, okay.
Right. And then he gets 5 points for each one of those staff ground units we talked about that the U.S. gets 5 for destroying. Mm-hmm. He gets 5 for everyone that gets exited to the Cambodian sanctuary boxes, which we'll talk about as the campaign moves on. Suffice to say, on the map, go up to that where we saw the map there, Gary. We kind of can't see it, but to the north there are 2 exits to Sanctuary Zone 1 and Sanctuary Zone 2. Mm-hmm. And that's eventually, when it's time for the NLF to withdraw, where he's trying to withdraw to. So
okay, so let me just blow the map over here. Those are these exits up here on the north edge of the map that are marked as 1 or 2.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to the victory conditions, right? All right, same thing. He gets points for getting those when it's time to do so, when those 82nd Logistics ground unit guys go above ground, as because it's time to withdraw. He gets points for boogieing those guys out to Cambodia. Gary gets 8 points if fire support base Dao Tiang. There's a typo in the slide. Is destroyed or captured, even if recaptured. Mm-hmm. It's really captured. No extra award if captured a second time by the NLF. Gary, and he gets points for taking base hexes, those base hexes in Tainan West. He gets points for capturing special forces camps. So it really adds up to destroying U.S. units, just exiting precious capabilities when it's time off the map, extra points for destroying premium U.S. units, and points for capturing precious infrastructure for the U.S. And you see how the victory conditions work for each side on the bottom, okay? Mm-hmm. There are different levels of victory: operational, tactical, Pyrrhic. And I'll talk to those at a later time when we're getting to the middle of the game, but I've got definitions in what my opinion constitutes the persistent effects. That's what those victory levels are about, is like, hey, this operation, yeah, great, but what impact is it having on the overall conflict? And, I've got those victory levels defined, but I've also got and really kind of a designer's opinion baked into the game about if the U.S. did this or the NLF did this, this is the effect it would have on the war. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so next slide. And let's see if we have any questions.
Yeah, there are a couple, actually. So,
yeah, captured. All right, let me take a look.
That's about the typo on the slide.
The intelligence assessment was accurate to the strategic screen. Go back. Wrong way, Gary. Oh, no. Keep the slide there. It just caught up.
Okay.
You're right. It caught up with the strategic situation. Basically, we knew what they were trying to do. We knew how Warzone C worked. We knew that Warzone D was getting supplies from the Ho Chi Minh Trail, but there was cooperation. We knew that the headquarters for their operations was in the Iron Triangle. So the strategic picture, the U.S. had a good handle on what the NLF was trying to accomplish. I would say where the intelligence assessment was inaccurate was the operational intelligence. The U.S. had no idea that the 9th PLAF Division reinforced was coming in to launch this offensive, okay? And that's a constant weak point. Like, there's enough intelligence collated by the U.S. to be able to get together a picture of what the enemy's trying to do, but those operational specifics would frequently escape them. There just wasn't the fidelity of the information at this time, and there wasn't the experience in getting that information at that time. But in terms of generally what the NLF were trying to do, the MACV had a good general idea. Let's see. Robert Moffat captured. Yep, that is, and it's a C-123. And no other questions, so we'll get back to it. Okay. Sorry, intensity and reinforcements. It actually shows up a lot better in the. Gary, I'm wondering if you actually have the final.
I have the version of the presentation that says "final" in the name.
Okay. All right. So maybe you did. All right. Seems to Do me a favor real quick. Now, we'll just go one by one, but if we're missing something, how many more slides do you have left? Just give me a count.
Hold on 1 second. This is slide 6 of 11.
Okay, we're good. All right.
Okay.
So you see there, it's just showing up so much nicer on the YouTube video, funnily, than my actual screen. So
I'll take credit for that.
Yeah, it's all you're doing. So intensity level, we see. So this is how reinforcements are basically done in the game. There's no way, this is a meeting engagement where each side made the actions on map impacted strategic decisions as we discussed for the U.S. to eventually reinforce the 196th Light Infantry Brigade and for the NLF to decide, we're going to withdraw from the Iron Triangle, etc. So in the game, I have the mechanism I use is called intensity. And you guys can read the definition for yourself above, okay? So as the campaign begins, the intensity level is 0, and it goes up as these events occur, as you see below you. Every time the U.S. successfully finds a cache, it goes up by 2. Every time Mike Force is introduced onto the map, and you're like, Mike Force introduced. Mike Force, as we'll see later, can react if a camp is determined to be threatened. Okay, so determined to be threatened in the game is if unconcealed, like revealed, PAVN or PLAF are within 5 hexes of a special forces camp, or if the NLF conduct an IDF attack, on a camp, or if they attack a camp, etc., that will trigger a Mike Force Mike Force being introduced. Each time Mike Force is introduced, intensity goes up by 1. Each time each U.S. step or PLAF, PAVN, notice once again, not local forces, intensity goes up by 1. Each attack or IDF fire attack against the Special Forces camp, U.S. base hex or fire support base Dao Tiang, intensity goes up by 1. And if the NLF occupy a Special Forces camp, or if they take a U.S. base hex or fire support base Dao Tiang is occupied, it goes up by 3.
I like to think of it as taking those locations back from the foreign devils.
Right. But you see, so it's a trigger mechanism. All these things just keep ramping up the intensity. And with rare exceptions, which we'll get to later, intensity always goes up, it doesn't go down. So next slide.
Reinforcements.
Yeah, basics, right? So this is how it works. So game turn 3, remember I said they'd already reinforced the U.S. with a battalion, and a second one was on the way. So game turn 3, a 5th U.S. infantry battalion is going to arrive as a reinforcement. And then we talked about that 272nd PLAF regiment that could be, if it's not available at setup, which we'll talk about, they show up between game turns 4 and 7, and it's a simple die roll. Game turn 4, the NLF player secretly rolls a d10. If he rolls a 7 or less, they show up on 4. They don't show up, then he rolls again on 5, but he gets a +1 to the roll, so it's an 8 or less. So it goes 70%, 80% until it just automatically shows up on game turn 7 if it hasn't shown up before. So that's some pretty standard war game reinforcement stuff right there, right? This is where the intensity kicks in, though. At intensity level 20, U.S. Infantry Division, the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, takes command of the operation, and it begins to arrive. And the way that works in the game is different units show up either the first, so kind of like D-Day. It's called in the campaign. It's called First 1ID, 1st Infantry Division Day. So anybody who shows up that day when the intensity level is officially at 20, those guys show up that day as reinforcements. Then there are some guys that show up day +1, day +2, and you just put them on the game turn marker. So they're going to show up based on how the length of time it takes for the logistics to get them there. Okay. However, when does intensity level 20 occur? Let's go back a slide, Gary. Who knows? It depends on the intensity of the operation. Because all that stuff is random. It could happen quickly. It could happen slowly, depending on the strategies that both players take.
So is there a set number of turns in the campaign?
Yes, and we'll get to that. There's 25.
Okay.
But it can be extended through chit plate to 30.
Okay.
25 days. So historically, why 25? That's how long it lasted historically. But the reason it could last until 30, as we'll see, is like it just got called off because the U.S. decided to end the operation. There's no reason it couldn't have lasted longer. Okay, but in any case, my point is, we don't know when intensity level 20 is going to happen, but it's going to happen. Okay, so you see intensity. Are we back at the reinforcement basics?
Yes,
here?
we are.
Okay, intensity level 30. That's when those guys in the Iron Triangle evacuate that location. In practical terms, it's reinforcing this game map. So another NLF PLAF regiment shows up along with 2 PLAF battalions, just independent battalions, and those military region 4 staff units that we were talking about. They're really weak. They're basically victims if they get caught and take casualties. Then at intensity level 45, 2 Field Force assumes control of the operation. They left the commander of the 1st Infantry Division in charge, but they called it a 2 Field Force operation. They reinforced with more stuff, a brigade from the 25th Infantry Division, elements, a battalion, and some aviation elements of the 173rd Airborne Infantry Brigade, and some other corps level assets were rushed into the area. Okay? So that's MACV realizing that they have an opportunity to really inflict some damage, maybe possibly wholesale destroy the 9th PLAF division and destroy some NLF capabilities, those logistics guys, etc. And then finally, intensity level 60, that's when Cosvin says, look, everybody out of the pool. Everybody go to withdraw to Cambodia. It's too hot. We could lose some guys permanently. Practically, lose that rear services group units permanently, and we can't let that happen. Well, what it means practically speaking is, frankly, more reinforcements. So when Cosvin ordered that withdrawal, they ordered another regiment, the 70th PLAF Guards Regiment, to enter the area from Cambodia to aid in covering the withdrawal. And those rear services group units, along with some air defense units that accompany them, appear on map, kind of in the middle of the north part of the map. So just like they come above ground, basically. So the guards and the whole force is now supposed to cover this withdrawal of those MR4 guys who came up from the south earlier, and now these rear services guys, and get out of Cambodia. Declare victory. We've inflicted enough damage, but we don't want to take any damage to our permanent capabilities. So, any questions at all yet about reinforcements and intensity at all? Okay. None so far. If anybody has any questions, feel free to hammer them in, put them in there, and we'll go. Do you have any questions, Gary?
Not at this time.
As a player, I'll tell you that the intensity level, the way it works is that you keep track of it as it goes, but it's determined every command phase. So, like for instance, let's say it gets to 23 during a turn.
That's when you actually implement the effect.
Correct.
Okay.
If it's 23, all right, well, we're officially at intensity level 20, boom. Okay.
Okay.
So now we'll talk about operational guidance chits. Now, I'll say as a preamble here, these are used in the scenarios as well. We just haven't played any of the intermediate or advanced scenarios that have them. But they create minor variances, and it's basically each player draws a chit, and it creates minor variances that increases playability for the scenarios. But in the campaign, they're a really big deal. In fact, really, each player should do each player is instructed to do the operational guidance chit mechanic before they even set up. Both players. And so you see, before setup, each player, there are 6 of them. And each player must draw 3. The player, you draw them one at a time, and each player has to keep the first draw, and then they get to choose between the second and third draws, and they're held secretly. Some of them are mutually exclusive, as we'll see. And all the OP chits, generally speaking, they alter victory point awards, they alter capabilities available, they alter rules restrictions, they may alter intensity levels, and it may even lengthen the campaign. So like you said, how long is the game? This is what I mean when I say it's 25, but it could be 30. So next slide. Let's take a look at the U.S. operational guidance chits real quick. So you guys can read these for yourselves. I'm not going to read it out to you, but you see what I'll pick out a couple of examples. So chit 1, The U.S. normally it just increases the intensity level if the U.S. finds these caches, finds caches during the game. Okay, which that represents MACV getting more and more interested by these cache finds and wanting to reinforce the operation. All right, so that's why the intensity is increasing. But here, there's a possibility, as you see, if the U.S. player gets Chit 1, that the U.S. gets victory points for cache finds. I believe it's 2 per. So even if and it's one of the things I love about this Chit mechanic, Gary has, before he sets up, has to read all my Chit possibilities and then draw his Chits, right? So Gary now knows that I might have that Chit. So if I'm getting caches, he could gamble and sit back, but I could be getting free victory points by getting those, as well as increasing the intensity level. You see Chit 2, extensive planned air mobile operation. It just for 1 turn lets U.S. normal infantry basically act just like air mobile infantry. Someone had asked me in a previous, what could air mobile do, and what could why couldn't infantry operate like them? And it's because, the normal U.S. infantry wasn't trained like air mobile infantry to land in specific areas. It requires pre-planning and use of supplies. Well, here, this represents MACV providing those supplies and the proper coordination and the planning to use them for 1 turn. So that's a big deal. Being able to use U.S. infantry sometime in the game, like air mobile infantry, doing a big air mobile operation during the campaign is a big deal. And I'm not getting into all the specifics of these Chits, like when it occurs, before this, for all of them. I'm just trying to present a general understanding here. The two that kind of go together are way into Deploy winning out. I'll let you guys read those for yourself. But what it basically does is lets the U.S. player take a victory point penalty, but by doing so, he can increase the intensity by 10 at any time. So the NLF player may think he's waiting for intensity 20 before the 1st Infantry Division shows up, but oh my God, the U.S. player plays a Chit and they're showing up early. Okay?
So intensity sounds like it is generally favorable for the U.S. to have a higher intensity level. Is that an accurate statement?
No, I think it depends.
Okay.
Both sides are getting more forces.
Okay. That's
practically
true.
speaking. Practically speaking. And I think... And this is about player agency. I'm a firm believer in games where the player is determining what he does during the operation, right? Mm-hmm. It's not on rails. This is all up to the U.S. the NLF player. The NLF player may develop a strategy for the campaign where he wants to control the tempo and slow it down, right? Or he may want to take risks and do things that will increase the tempo of the operation. Mm-hmm. And the U.S. player, I've taken and got my mind and play tested for quote unquote gamey behavior and incorporated it into the game. Let's go back up to that intensity slide. Intensity and reinforcements.
All right, we're there.
All right. The U.S. is completely conscious that if he takes casualties, he's going to increase the intensity level, right? So the U.S. player could say, I'm going to do some risky attacks here because MACV might have my back if I do that. It's completely up to the U.S. player. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, however, if he takes the step losses, he's taking victory point losses, right? And he's in risk of losing units. Mm-hmm. And he's weakening himself. So, tomato. I through in the game generally as a design philosophy and in terms of the OP Chits, my idea was like players are going to try to win. They're going to try to do gamey things. So it's best to embrace those in the design and the victory conditions and intensity, right? Rather than trying to like constantly stamp them out with rules like, be good players, don't do that sort of thing. That's just not realistic, You follow what I'm saying? So it's best to co-opt it.
I agree with that.
And make it historical, So, okay. So you see, there's back to the U.S. operational guidance Chits, there's a Chit, General Dupuy wins out, right? Basically, it just lets the U.S. player move the intensity down 10 points, right? The U.S. player may want the op to go on longer so he has more opportunity to kill and hunt for those units, right? You follow what I'm saying, Gary? So,
Yep.
Right? So there's an incentive to move it down. Those two Chits are mutually exclusive. Okay? So if the U.S. player picks one, he can't have the other. He can't have it both ways. Both generals can't be winning out. All right, and you see real quick, McAfee's concerned about the camp. Well, the U.S. gets a free Mike Force deployment, even if one isn't justified by the Mike Force conditions. But he takes extra victory point penalties if the special force camps are captured. So be above and beyond. Okay.
Okay.
And that's McAfee saying, look, we're so worried about these camps, we're giving you this Mike Force. But it means if the U.S. player loses camps, it's...
Yeah, and again, you're going to draw 3 chits, and you're required to use the first one. You're required to declare, at some point, at the appropriate time, you're required to use that first one, but you have your choice between the other 2.
Right. And this is a good time to say all these chits, and when we get to the NLF chits, okay, there's always the option to not play the chit, but take a victory point penalty.
Yes, and that's in the chit descriptions in the rules.
Right. So I didn't throw those on here. Wasn't enough room. Wanted to keep the slide short. So the U.S. player could also say, either player could say, I'm going to ignore your guidance, MacV. I'm going to ignore your guidance, Consvin, but you'll take a victory point penalty for it. So for, all right, so that's the MacV camps, and bomb them. If intensity's 35 or higher, B-52 strike becomes available early. Normally it shows up at 45. Okay, so this is MacV saying, look, we really want to kill those logistics units, right? We want to destroy that capability, okay? So you get the strike early, but hey, guess what? If more than 5 logistics units and or MR4 staff units end the game in Cambodia, you get an extra penalty for it. You know? So here's a capability, but if you don't use it the way we want to use it, you're going to suffer a victory point penalty. So any questions about the U.S. chits? So, let's see here. Got a bunch of questions.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of questions this time.
How did I come up with the intensity levels? I did an alpha playtest, Michael Pankowski, until I felt they were roughly the time periods, kind of, sort of, when those things happened historically. Okay? When those trigger points were reached. Patchwork pictures. No, there are no restrictions on air mobile close to the border. There are restrictions in terms of terrain types where units can land. Okay. Yep, Robert Moffat. Yep, it's arc light early arc light is Chit 6. And David Eidelbach. So good question. So I think I answered that. The 2 general chits are mutually exclusive. So let's say you pull the first chit and it's general Wayand, and the next 2 you pick as the U.S. are like the cash find one and the other general. Well, that tells you which one you have to pick, which is the cash choices, because you can't use those 2. In the rules, in the scenario itself, it's spelled out that they're mutually exclusive. You can't. Westmoreland can't listen to both of them. He can only listen to one of them. So, okay, let's now take a look at the next slide, the NLF chits. Gary?
Here we are.
Okay, so the one we're going to focus on first is Chit 4. Focus the offensive in Warzone C. So remember when we talked about that 272nd PLAF regiment that could come on map between turns 4 and 7 because it got weirdly sent? This chit is focus the offensive on Warzone C. So Cosvin this represents Cosvin giving explicit instruction to Colonel Cam to stay concentrated, focus on Warzone C. So if the NLF player has this, after the U.S. sets up, but before he sets up, he can play it. And he immediately takes a 10-point victory penalty, but he gets that whole regiment as part of his setup turn 1. And if he decides not to play it, he takes a penalty. So, and now we'll look generally. Attack Tainan City. Cosvin provided very conflicting guidance to Cam, in fact. You know, it's almost like they want him to do everything. So this is focusing the guidance saying, hey, look, if you grab some urban hexes in Tainan City, right, and the NLF actually expose themselves there, they can't be concealed, they have to reveal themselves unfixed, he gets extra victory points as a one-time award for taking these urban hexes. Okay? It's propaganda, running up the flag, we've captured Tainan City, you know, etc. So, eliminate the camps. Whoa, he focusing on camps. Bonus victory point awards for siegers of Special Forces camp, placing a priority on that. You can see where if the NLF player has that and the U.S. player has said, hey, guard those camps could become really, really valuable in terms of victory points for the NLF. Destroy the Americans. NLF gets even more victory points. We're talking in the neighborhood of like an extra 5 guys for all these things. Okay, for destroying their specialized units, the ASA debt, headquarters, the training team. You guys can read the justifications of what Cosvin and the LF were trying to do that feed into that. Press the advantage. Well, that lets the NLF player move the intensity down 8 points if he wants to. What that means is, hey, we're not going to evacuate this thing quickly. We want to stay here a while and keep this offensive going and press the advantage. In Chit 6, evacuate War Zone C. Before game turn 20, he can move it up 8 points. That's Cosvin saying, look, guarding our assets is more important, so we'd like to see us exit here earlier. Now, if you look at those chits, and you go back to the U.S. chits for a second, Gary, we'll just look at those for a second. The key here for both sides is you don't know what the other guy has, so you have to be aware that he could conceivably have any of them. And what I love about this is not only does it give players agency in terms of, they have a little bit of guidance about what they can do, but they can always ignore the guidance. But in terms of the capabilities or the vulnerabilities that the chits make them show to the other side, you have to think that, my God, like I said, for Chit 1 there, for the U.S. chits, Gary's got to approach this thing thinking that it's possible I'll get victory points for cash funds. He's got to approach this thinking that this thing could go on till turn 30 if I play Chit 4. If we go to the NLF chits, I have to approach my setup thinking that he might have the 272nd Regiment. Chit 4, NLF, we should be on NLF operational guidance chits. Even if he doesn't have the chit, I've got a plan for it. I've got a guard tain in city because he might get extra victory points out of that. Or giving the commander agency, letting the commander decide. I could say, you know what, I'm going to take a risk there. But I'll take my medicine if I have to. So that's kind of going over the U.S. and the NLF operational guidance chits. Any questions?
So let me throw something in here. One interesting ramification of the operational guidance chits mechanic essentially makes this campaign game, gives it completely altered victory conditions every time that you play. So right. This is going to, this mechanic alone is going to, I think, enormously increase replayability of the campaign scenario.
I think you're absolutely right, and it, not only will it alter, it has it done so already, but it provides for very different games each time, right? So as you, so the way they're intended is you draw these chits and they're informing your strategy about what you should do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Now you could say, well, I got this one and I don't like the other 2 choices, so I'll take the hit on this one and I'll use this one. But it's kind of roughly guiding it. If you play the chits right, it may not win the game for you, but it should bag you some extra victory points if you try to merge your strategy with that. However, you're under no mandate to do so. To conduct your strategy in any way. So, next slide. Well, there's Gary and me.
That's us.
Any questions from anybody? I'll hang out for 5 minutes and see if anybody has any questions.
All right, I'm going to step away for about 60 seconds. So Feel free to ask questions, folks, in the chat, and then we will pull up the Vassal module and we will actually show you what the deployment looks like for the whole campaign, which I think if you've watched the previous videos, you'll find very interesting.
Yeah, and to just add on to your point, Michael Pankowski, that's absolutely true. And most of the chits, the instructions to play them are, they're meant to surprise the player either in the middle of the turn or like on a command phase or something. It's not like waiting till a very specific time to play them. So, somebody could be playing that chit on you at any minute. Like if the NLF had the, focus on the camps chit and he took 3 camps, boom, play the chit immediately and, get that extra victory point award immediately, or he could hold off on it and surprise the U.S. player with it on the last turn. So, that uncertainty about whether you're winning or losing as the game's going on is a mechanic I treasure anyway. It keeps the players, it keeps them in it. You don't know. You may have it in the bag, you may not. It depends on that operational guidance chit play. So it looks like we don't really have any questions. If anybody thinks of any later and wants to pop them in after we start the campaign game, feel free to. And Gary, you don't have any questions?
No, not that I haven't asked already.
All right, that went on longer than we thought, but I think it was worthwhile.
That
Why don't
is
we take?
actually was completely anticipated by me. Do you want to take a quick break?
Let's take 5 or 10, and then we'll start up the campaign.
Okay,
Why don't you,
put up the fancy be right back screen, and we will be right back.
okay.
All right, I have returned, and a couple of things. One, I am actually going to create an edited video version of Pat's presentation and release it as a separate video, probably later, probably next week, so that those folks who just want to see the historical background and game design methodology and don't actually want to see the playthrough stuff can just watch that. So that will be up sometime next week, I think. There'll be some light editing required to put that together. I have pulled up the campaign map, and I've kind of spread this, zoomed this to a level where you can see the entire map. So if you watch the previous videos, I think you'll notice where we had, in the scenarios we have, something like 10 locations where there might be NLF units, and here we have a lot. NLF get a lot of concealment markers to play with in the campaign scenario. And one of the things that I'm going to spring on Pat as soon as we start actually playing is that one of the operational command chits that I drew was number 4, which I display before we start playing, which is that the 272nd Regiment reinforces, if I so choose to play it that way. And I do. And I'll take a victory point penalty for doing that, but I get an entire other regiment of guys, too. So I feel like that is justified. And let's just put that there. No sense wasting it. So we are effectively ready to go. One of the things I want to see is so lengthy turns do not bother me as a gamer. I want to see how fast, but how fast the turns played is it's a factor. It's a logistical consideration when you're playing, right? So I want to know that. Although long turns or short turns aren't necessarily going to dissuade me from liking a game in and of themselves. So it'd be very curious to see how this plays with a much larger pool of units available. Much larger. And of course, there's, I'll show you the reinforcement card. This is that's the US one. So there's still a fair amount of NLF units that could come in at a later time as well. So now some of those some of these guys won't come in until very late in the escalation game. But yeah, Michael, the Chits. One of the really interesting things about the Chits is specifically how that you always have an opt out, right? You could pay a victory point penalty to not play the Chit, the mandatory Chit, if you really don't want to do that. But the Chits will mostly give you bonus victory points for doing certain things or achieving certain goals in the context of the operational campaign. So the Chits are going to, as Pat said, they don't dictate your strategy, but they will inform it because you are going to get extra victory points for doing that stuff, right? And you'll notice at some point, maybe not tonight, that my strategy was affected by the details of the Chits that were drawn. And I still have no idea what Chits Pet drew.
I have returned.
All right, I have the Vassal. I've been talking for a couple minutes. I have the Vassal module up, and you'll see right around dead north center of the map. You'll see
the Sea of Red.
Well, that and Chit number 4, operational guidance Chit number 4.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. The 272nd. So let's pull up Mr. General Records track here. And give you 10 victory points.
No, that's not how it works. You take a deficit. So instead of me getting 10,
how do we track that then with the counters?
in the final module, these should flip. These don't.
Okay.
This should have a negative marker.
Okay.
So we're gonna place that. We're gonna place it up here.
Okay.
And
that's
know
fine.
that you've got 10. Well, I'll just leave it there. We'll know. Okay.
That's fine.
And you see all the other markers there that we're tracking. Another thing to keep note of is originally the intensity was called reinforcement trigger points, and it's a different counter now. It just says intensity in white, and it's got a cool looking lightning bolt.
Okay.
But Francisco neglected. It's one of the fixes we need for the Vassal module. So that's the intensity level.
Okay.
You see a cache. The cache is for counting caches. And I got 0 victory points. I have 12 air points, and you see all our replacements that we have laid out, and they'll arrive as they arrive. So wow, we're gonna play the campaign. So let's I see you have the big map made big. So go ahead. If you on that OP Chit, if you I think you can reveal it. So go ahead and reveal it.
Oh, I haven't revealed it yet.
Yeah. It's
all right. There you
boom.
go.
That's Chit 4. All right. So we know that's been played. You took your hit, and you can put that back in your OP Chit cup. All right. So
is there any reason to put it back in the cup?
Not really, but why leave it on map? It's clutter, man. Clutter.
Well, I have them off map on the card, one of the cards.
I'm teasing you, Gary.
That's okay.
So looking at the map, look at the huge sea of red concealment markers that are out there.
That's 60 concealment markers.
Yeah. And each wave of reinforcements, as the NLF get them, also arrive with concealment markers. So, I think the maximum in the game are 80.
That's the force. That's the counter limit.
Yep. So, all right. So we pull up the sequence of play.
Yep, that is right here.
Let me refamiliarize myself with my Chits again and get into the groove about what I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing this turn. Another thing I didn't mention in the briefing is that initiative, if we pull up the game turn marker, initiative is tied to the intensity level. So the game starts with the NLF having the initiative, launching the offensive, right?
Okay.
And then that changes. The U.S. gains the initiative on intensity level 20. And initiative will switch hands a few times as those intensity events occur.
Okay.
So that's
and let me also mention on the NLF card, The off-map boxes, the Cambodia off-map boxes, are on here.
Yeah, and you guys can see at the north of the map, which we haven't really explored, you see every one of those hexes that's adjacent to a 1 exits to transit box 1 on the way to Sanctuary 1. And then the same thing for 2, and you'll see 1 and 2 are also interconnected. And we'll get into that movement mechanic, which is kind of different than on-map movement later. It's slow. Off-map movement takes like a whole turn, moving from box to box. It's a good ways off, a good 10 miles off from the Cambodian border, which is just on the other side of the map edge, essentially. So, wow, big sea of red. We see that there. We see the U.S. is just kind of deployed. We got the special forces detachments by those camps. We're feeling a little vulnerable right now, and and I had to set up, but it's kind of okay. I had to set up assuming Gary was going to have that 272nd Regiment anyway. So he's coming at me with 3 PLAF and 1 PAVN regiment, and the local force guys. I will bet you money if they're anywhere based on the setup restrictions. Basically, Gary had to set up north of Hex Row 10 for everybody.
For everybody except the local force guys.
Who can set up anywhere, and he can also set up decoys anywhere he wants as well. So there we go. So let's get this thing going. Sequence of play. Command phase. We don't need to worry about the first 3 steps, nor the reorganization step, because it's the first turn. So we start with the initiative step. You're the initiative player. What do you want to do?
That's a good question. I hadn't actually thought of that yet. I will say sure. Let me go first definitely in operations, and we'll go first in fires as well.
Okay. So that's that. All right. So we now move to, now we would do fixing or unfixing, but that's not necessary. And you also see something we've just bliffed over in this. Notice it also says in the initiative step, units in transit boxes may be moved into Cambodia. Red Haze unit, we haven't looked, may do things. So the initiative step becomes this, before you get into the meat of the turn, time when other things happen. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, first ISR phase, concealment step. I don't think you have anybody to conceal.
Oh, every concealment marker, I'll tell you, every concealment marker is in fact on the map at this time. There's no reason to withhold concealment markers at the beginning of this campaign, in my opinion.
All right. So I'll start with my aviation step. Let me pull my aviation out. And let me think about what I'm going to do.
Another big difference we're going to see is that the U.S. does not have that much more aviation assets available in this huge campaign than they did in some of the smaller scenarios.
Yeah, as it starts, it's just the 196 and their attached aviation, and there's a reinforced battalion. The U.S. isn't that. So let me think about what I'm going to do here, Gary. All right. I think we're going to move this guy here. I think we're going to move this guy. Now, remember, you can't. The one thing I will tell you, it looks like you've disobeyed.
Huh.
You cannot set up. find it.
I see. I believe I see what you're talking about. Concealment marker 50.
Yeah, you can't set up
Yeah.
within, and I just need to find the distance, X distance of a U.S. unit or. Oh,
Or
you
a
can't
special
set up
forces base.
within 5 hexes of a special forces camp. U.S.
All right.
units don't matter.
I just moved it. There's a reason why that thing got placed in a random spot.
But you've also got 49 and 48.
Oh, you're right.
Yep. And you've got 47.
That's not legal. 47. Is there a special forces camp there?
Yep. In 2413. So you got to back off. So you basically have to be 6 hexes away from that. So you got a whole bunch of units.
13.
Yeah.
There's no camp there.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm wrong. Never mind. So, however, 31 is too close to a special forces camp. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're 4 hexes away. You need to be 6 away. So 31 and 41
right.
got
Let me
to back off a
here.
little bit.
So if you want to move that aircraft, go ahead.
You're still within 5.
Yeah.
31's still within 5. You got to
Working on
back
it.
off.
There you go.
Let me look at Minton. All right, Minton is cleared of you, and let me take a look at Tribe E. 1, 3, 4. Yeah, 34 and 11 are too close. You're too close.
Oh, they are. I just miscounted that. But I'm here.
As is 19. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So, all right, now let me move my stuff. All right, so let me see here. Where did I put the other guy? Oh, up here. And I have a sneaking suspicion you could have ADF, so we're gonna move that guy with him. And what about the Hueys? And I should have, where did I put it? Where the hell is my damn Chinook? Maybe I didn't set it up. Should have one of them suckers. Lost a damn helicopter the first turn. There it is.
That's the military for you.
Yep. So let's see here. All right, I have done my aviation step.
Okay.
Do you have any ADF fire?
Let me see where you're at. I do. Do I have to unconceal this guy, I assume?
Which guy? Yeah, if you're gonna pop
The
somebody
ADF
out,
unit.
yeah, pull him out and fix him.
There you go.
Okay, so you're going to take a shot. Which chopper?
Oh, the Chinook.
Okay, actually, it's at the whole stack, but yeah, you're
Okay, well,
so
either
all right.
way.
Yep.
All right, so
So,
let's see what we
well,
got
it's
here.
not a Chinook. You got an observation. You got a attack craft. So let's look at the chart.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
All right.
So, transportation aviation unit. I'm looking at the modifiers. Not escorted by attack aviation unit. That's definitely not applicable.
Right.
It's. I assume it's not conducting a loading or unloading mission.
Right.
ADF capable units in bunkers, which is not the case. PLAF 394. That is not this unit. You're not conducting a surveillance mission yet, so that doesn't apply. More than 3 attack. So you have more than 3 but less than 6. So I'm seeing a net die roll modifier of -1. Does that sound right?
Right.
All right.
Correct. On the 2 to 5.
And yeah, we're on the 3 factors. So let's roll it up. 7. So that turns into a 6. So that's a no effect.
No effect. Okay. So we are now going to do some loading at Tainin West. And we have loaded some units. And now we are going to go to finish the aviation step. Now we do the intelligence step. So the guys on top of the mountain. We are going to pick concealment marker. Number 30, and we are going to guess that it's PLAF.
I'm trying to find it. Give me a second.
All right.
Oh, it is not actually PLAF.
Okay, that ends the mission.
Okay.
If it's a decoy, you
It is not empty.
Okay. So then we go to your intelligence. So you do have the 9th division, 9th PLAF divisional headquarters. You can pick any stack on the map and roll against modify by terrain and try to unfix them.
All right. We're going to roll for the stack in 4309.
4309. That is the Special Forces camp, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You've got a 6, and it's modified by the terrain, which is jungle.
-4. Is that a -4 or -3?
Let's see.
Because if it's -3, I made it. You're in dense jungle.
Yep, dense jungle.
-3.
That's it.
So he is unfixed and revealed.
They are unfixed. There you go. It's Special Forces detachment.
Okay. Not unsurprisingly.
Right. So now we go to the surveillance step. All right. So the guy with the attack helicopter is going to try to do a surveillance mission on number 30. You get another ADF mission. So if we go to the ADF chart, it's exact same, except you're at a -2 now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Now let's roll it and see what happens. That's a better roll, though. So that's a 7. That's still nothing, though.
Okay. So now we are going to roll at -4 against number 30. So we need a 2 or less. That's a big fail. And now we are going to go to the other surveillance craft, and we're going to try to reveal number 31. Let's see what happens. We need you're in light jungle?
That is 31 is in dense jungle.
So we need a 2 or less. 6 minus 4, 2 or less. Got him.
All right, so 31. He's revealed unfixed or
Correct.
fixed?
Correct. Unfixed.
Revealed unfixed.
Oh, there's definitely something there. All right, let me give him a mission. Problem is we can't really do much about it this turn. So, okay. All right, next step. Now we go to the reconnaissance step. I don't think I might have somebody in range of you to do reconnaissance. Let me take a look, but I don't think so. Yes, I do. We got a unit in range of concealment marker 45. And we're going to do a mission on him. So we need to roll I believe it's a 4, maybe a 3 or less in that terrain. Yep, it's a -4 for the terrain CR mod.
Yeah, that's Jungle Hills.
Yeah. Is the other guy to the south a better mod? Yeah.
Slightly.
Yeah. We're going to go after 45 for a 3 or less.
Okay.
Failed.
Okay.
And let me see here. Nobody else is within range of any of my other dudes. So that's it for my recon. Do you have anybody in range of me? You want to do recon with?
I don't think so, actually.
No.
No,
Oh, and I'd forgotten. Do you have any local force missions to do?
I
Remember,
don't. I actually checked that. I actually
Okay.
don't. And I probably should have placed them a little bit better with that in mind. I kind of forgot about that.
Okay.
Then again, I was, a little bit restricted on where I could place too. So,
Yeah.
but no, I do not. So I don't. The only. No, I don't have any special forces within 3 hexes.
Okay. So we move now. We're done with the reconnaissance step. Now we go to and I don't have anybody in the cache zone.
Mm-hmm.
So right
Did we
now,
want to put anybody on patrol?
That's up to you.
Okay, I'm good. I just wanted to mention it because we didn't say it.
I do not want to put anybody on patrol. I blipped right past it. So on purpose. So let's see. I'm not in the cache zone. So the cache zone, for those watching, the place where the U.S. can look for caches, and we'll describe how that works when it happens, is I'm going to throw down this ADF marker and then delete it. And it is... The cache zone starts off as a box on the map, and in the final game, there are markers to mark out the cache zone, and as the intensity level increases, the cache zone wanders north. Basically, for caches, the U.S. could have looked anywhere in certain sections of the map and found a large cache, and then gone and searched, and if they did the right thing and found the right places, they could search a hex again the next day and find another cache. So you're not marking caches on the map. You're going to an area of the map and you're searching it.
Mm-hmm.
So the cache zone at the beginning of the game. Let's see here. Let me look at the contents. It's the southern border of it is it's north of hex row 19, so north of this, and it is east of, which is really what we're concerned about right now. There's a northernmost limit and a southernmost limit, and it is east of 2300, which is this. So, you with me?
Yep.
So that's something to bear in mind. So, all right. So I'm going to keep this at 19 for now. So we'll remember that. All right. So, with that in mind, I can't do any cache searches right now. So we now move to the next phase.
Okay.
Which is the fires phase, and you're going first.
I don't have any fires, actually.
All right.
Or do I? Can I fire that ADF again at the aircraft that are still there?
No.
Okay.
ADF is always like at the end of my aviation move, and yeah, you know.
All right. So let me check a couple of things.
Now that unit's direct fire capable, so you could, if I had a ground unit there, you could do direct fires. So just like the U.S. mechanized does, that guy would get like 2 attacks. But I don't have anybody there.
I'm just checking ranges just to make sure that I'm right, that I don't have any fires, and I believe I'm right.
You're pretty easy to remember. Everybody's got a range of 3 because they're all mortars. Even there's this huge unit with 160 millimeter mortars.
There's a couple of 4s.
Right, those are recoilless rifle batteries. So they got a little bit more range on them. But you don't have the US, the crazy US stuff like
right, big artillery. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So no, I don't have any fires.
No fires. All right, US fires phase. All right, so these guys are now. These guys are going to get out of there. Just hover over there, and. Yeah, we're going to keep the gunship there. Let's see. Nope. No, we're going to move the gunship here. And move the other dudes. Let me pull this guy away from those dudes. And now I got all those dudes who loaded stuff up. So let me see where I'm going to send them. This is kind of a no-brainer. And boy, I wish I had an extra Huey. And I have not given you an opportunity for ADF fire, so I'm going to unload dude. Okay, I am done with my aviation step, and now for some real deal fires, I do not have any this turn, sir. So, and I don't, but I do have a fires movement that I think I might be using. Let's see here. Whoa, the one unit that's not starting the scenario fixed because it's motorized. So this motorized recon unit's going to try to move. Let's see here.
Where's he at?
2421. Yep. That is, so a good example of the lack of, you're putting together a light infantry brigade. It's a new concept, and you've got these new concept light infantry units. So the recon they send is jeeps with 106 millimeter mortars. So in game turns, they can't even do a recon mission. So, but there they sit. So these guys are going to go. They can't move into the jungle hex that's adjacent, and they have to stick to the light woods. So they're going to go 2, 4, 5, 6 to there. And that is their fires movement. And with that, my fires phase ends.
Okay. And then in that case, we're over to the operations phase. So, this may take a bit, FYI. Okay. Pulling up the terrain effects chart just to make sure I have this handy. Okay. This guy actually hasn't moved yet, so let's move him first. He's a guy. I'm going to pull movement flags off those units that I had to relocate just so that everything is clear. Everything is clear. All right. These guys actually aren't moved yet either. All right. So
Indeed, they had recoilless rifles. It's one of their favorite weapons, and in the game, it's an interesting weapon system. Did you just reveal that local force guy on Poipus?
which guy? The guy in 2010?
Yes.
No, he's the guy you revealed.
No, I did not. Oh,
yes, you did.
Yeah, but he should be unfixed, my friend. Oh, I should be looking at the stream.
He is
Sorry.
unfixed.
Sorry, I will.
What I did was because I moved him off the.
No, you're good. You're good.
Display,
I looked at the live stream and I can see him. You know that's okay. I was working with the chat. Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's see here.
Thanks, David Eidelbach. Yeah, they put the map sideways for some bizarre reason on that thing. Randy's just doing the best he can with what he can mount on his site and stuff. In terms of the recoilless rifles, yeah, it was a very flexible weapon system. It's capable of indirect fire. It's capable of air defense fire. It's capable of direct fire. And in the game, it's in the rules, it's all about what you choose to use. You can't use it for everything. What you're using it for that day is pretty much what you're stuck with. So if you're using it for direct fire, it can't do indirect. If it's used for indirect, it really can't be used for direct. And it's anti-tank capable, as are all the NLF units that have a red strength. It's something that U.S. armor has to respect, at least.
I have not moved this guy yet. I should have just used the button. That would have solved that problem.
I fully trust you. I just put a Wikipedia link in there, Patchwork. They're B-10s. At this time frame, but they changed all throughout the war. They're not here on map. They're batteries of the 9th PLF has 2 batteries of B-10s. Primarily.
Hold that.
And thanks for backing it, David Eidelbach. Yeah, I just checked. The numbers showed up. I just noticed Gary misspelled, like he put the link there, but it says a hit dry season.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oops.
My name's not Tom, it's Tim. I'm not developing a specific solitaire variant, Kenneth T. As you can see from, if you saw the presentation, I'm trying to take advantage of there being two players and doing as much as I can to create uncertainty with them. And that's really the trade-off with solo, right? So, I mean, if you have a solitaire module, it's just not as interesting. The chits don't work, etc. I think what I say all the time is I think based on how the game plays and the combat effects of limited and hidden information, if you're going to play it solo, you should play with those things, even though you'll know what the hidden units are. But, there are combat effects to those things. So I wouldn't advise playing without hidden or limited movement. Then it's not the same operation. You're just playing the Battle of the Bulge in the jungle. But, if you're playing solo, yeah, you're going to have knowledge of where things are deployed, and you're going to have knowledge of the chits and stuff. That's why, at the end of the day, I would have called it a low solitaire suitability, but I think that the combat effects of hidden and limited information bump it up to a medium. But as you can see already, it's just a far, far better game, two-player than solo. And I designed it with two-player in mind. I think designers consciously or subconsciously sometimes, they make the decision of, hey, I want this to be solo friendly, or just the way they look at games, they're making it solo friendly. And for this, I wanted to take advantage through all the mechanisms as much as I could of there being specifically opposed play. That's where it gains its replayability. All the stuff everyone was loving about the intensity levels and, the chits and all that, well, that's about opposed play. But on the flip, and to help facilitate that, that's why on release, we're going to release this improved even from this vassal module with a lot of functionality and stuff. So, because, recognizing the fact that most people, they can't always find a partner. Hope that answers your question.
All right, so we're good there.
Oof. The red hordes just advance on Camp Minton. That's not good. So I'm officially noting that there is a PLAF unit within 5 hexes revealed of a Special Forces camp.
That's true now.
Yes. That will officially mean Mike Force can be triggered. You are going for the throat, Gary.
Oh, imagine that.
Not now, but like next turn. I'm just going to remind myself of that. Which is very historical. November 2nd was when they were sent in. General Cam was going for the throat. You're welcome, Kenneth T. Yeah, I frequently in my life buy games just to learn about the history, especially if I see there's some good research behind it. But yeah, Gary, why don't you show them your concealment marker board thing, like with all the concealed units.
There's a lot of stuff on here.
Yeah, go ahead and just show it to them.
Yeah,
so they
I got it up.
Someone asked. Yep. There you go, David Eidelbach. That's to answer your question. So you can see what he's got. Let me know when you're clear.
It's off the stream.
All right. Which means I'll give it an extra minute. Yeah, you have a big 2-monitor, Captain of the Enterprise set up over there. So
well, it's not quite that fancy. If I was really going all out, I would actually, and I'm thinking about this, using just pulling the 42-inch TV off the wall and using that instead.
My monitor is a 46-inch TV.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I found using a 35-inch TV that if it's 1080, then you really don't gain very much. But on the other hand, my 42-inch TV is a 4K, and I got a computer now that will run a 4K monitor very handily, and it would be amazing for videos. Unfortunately, when I mounted the TV, I threw the legs away. So that means that I either have to pull the whole thing off the wall, unscrew it, remount the TV on the wall in front of the desk, or I have to go find some legs. They're about $30 on eBay.
Yeah, it's why I don't have a cool gaming layer. So I mean, I'm disabled and I got a special bed, ever since when I got sick a couple years ago, and so when I go to bed, I can't get out. I'm in a wheelchair, right? So it's my entertainment center as well as my computer, right?
Sure.
So that's why it's now. What's cool about having it is I'm streaming to the TV, like from the computer. You know what I mean? So it's not I eventually got rid of my Apple TV because I'm like, it's my Apple TV little box, right? Because I'm like, it's redundant. I don't need it anymore. Everything I do is just Amazon on the big screen, or Netflix on the big screen, whatever. Up to 85 pre-orders with David Eidelbach. It's the latest pre-order person.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
It's a sea of red from the U.S. perspective.
Absolutely it is.
Is daunting. Kenneth, that's a really good question. So, in the game, after 1st Infantry Division takes command, it wasn't just that de Saussure was relieved. They also pulled the 196 basically to be retrained and reorganized. So, and they were pulled from the operation X number of days after 1st Infantry Division took command. So what happens in the game is, I forget the exact, so X number of days after intensity level 20, when there's a withdrawal of 196 infantry elements. So they are, in fact, I got it in front of me here. So the day that the intensity level is determined to be 20 is 1 ID day. That's the day 1st Infantry Division takes command. So let's see, withdrawal. Where is it? That's 5 days after the first 1 ID day. So on that day, most of their aviation assets, the recon assets, that Jeep with that recon ground unit with Jeeps with 106s, and the 3 battalions that compose the 196, the headquarters, and the 3rd of the 82nd, the field artillery battalion with 4 batteries that support them, are just pulled from the game. They're withdrawn. Units are simply picked up and removed from the map. If any of the above units are destroyed, they may not be rebuilt. And while Gary's moving, nope.
I'm close to being done, actually.
Yeah, I forget what the historic date is, Kenneth T. It was a little bit after that. He got fired, but they kept the unit in the operation. But as I wrote when the scenario comes out, the comments that I make, it was determined by MACV as Attleboro intensified that the 196 LIB was not ready for operations in Vietnam. It was withdrawn during the operation and attached to the 25th Infantry Division, where it underwent retraining and had many command staff personnel replaced, including the replacement of the commander, Brigadier General Edward de Saussure Jr. After several smaller readiness building operations in late 1966 and early 1967, it was relocated to First Corps, where it proved itself a quality frontline unit and served in Vietnam until 1972. But in the game, it's variable. It's 5 days after 1ID Day. 1ID Day historically was November 6th, actually. Kind of what Gary's doing here. If the intensity escalates, if he starts launching attacks against special forces camps and we just get into a real brouhaha, the intensity can escalate very quickly. But that's a conscious strategy by the NLF player. The NLF player could say, I don't want the intensity to ratchet up that quickly. Does that answer your question, Kenneth? I hope so. So in this scenario, let's pretend I don't get de Saussure, because this is your Attleboro, right? Let's pretend I don't get de Saussure fired. I do a good job. I don't mishandle the 196. It's going to become blatantly evident to MACV, though, that they need to be pulled out. They need to be retrained. So that's just going to happen as a matter of course. When de Saussure got fired, and they attached the 196 very temporarily to the 1st Infantry Division, and then later attached them to 25th and pulled them out. Well, that's because the operation was not going so well.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck with this, actually. All right, I'm done moving.
All right. Do you have any attacks?
I think I might. Yes. Stack number 30.
Okay.
It's going to attack... Oh, shit, I just hit the end button by mistake.
I don't think it matters yet. So
it shouldn't.
No, it does matter. Hold on. Gary.
There wasn't much revealed.
No. It's okay. Let me just move it back. You hit it twice. All right, so didn't do anything to me. I have to hit end to do stuff to me, and you don't have anybody who's got any statuses or anything, so it kind of
no, that's
matter.
true. Yeah, okay,
All
so
right.
I screwed up your air missions then.
Yes, you did.
Sorry about that. All right. So what's going to happen here is concealment marker number 30 is going to attack Camp Minton.
Okay. So you remember how to do it, right?
I'm going to pull those guys out and...
Right. They were concealed. We'll just know that, right?
Yeah, they were
it's
concealed.
The NVA. A whole battalion of NVA. All right. Or battalion's worth of NVA. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So do you have any support?
Yes, I do.
Now you can add in the 1st of the 94th. Remember, it's a direct fire weapon, so you can add them into the attack.
Sure. Why not?
Right.
Why not? So that's going to be 12 plus 2 is 14 actual ground factors.
Okay.
Okay. Plus, there will be support.
Okay.
And I can bring in twice my actual ground factors. Is that correct? Or is it 3 times?
You can bring in double your attack strength in fire if you have it.
Okay.
Maximum.
That's my question. I don't think I have 28 factors to blow, but we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
All right, so for the peoples, let's see what we got. So, all right, so we got some 120 millimeter mortars. All right, got some more 120 millimeter mortars. I'll start marking them IDF so you know you did support. Look at this. Everyone was talking about. We were talking about the recoilless rifles. Here's a battery of recoilless rifles. Well, you got a lot of support. That's 9, 13, 17. Any more?
I'm looking for the...
You might be able to get one more. Remember, if it's... Yeah, you might as well use it. I mean, but yeah, you'll max out at 18. Yep.
There you go. Plus 7.
Whoa.
All right.
Those are 160 millimeter mortars. Hence the high value. Still only got like a 3-mile range, but all right. So that's
17 plus 7 support factors, which would be 23 support factors. So we're looking at a total of 37 factors.
37 factors. Okay, I shall now move the helicopters and reveal myself. So we have landed, as you now see.
Mm-hmm.
2 companies from the 3rd of the 21st Battalion from the 196 there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a total of 12 factors defending.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to add in the helicopter, give them a mission, the gunship.
Okay. Does that make him susceptible to ADF fire?
Yes.
Okay.
So while I do that mission, you now get to do ADF fire on that guy with that unit. So it's just reactive mission. So if we pull up the chart, you're on the 2 to 5.
Yep.
And you've got a -1.
Okay, that sounds right. That's a 7, which is nothing.
So I am going to throw in all my air that I have, all 12 points, into this defensive Camp Minton. Game record track and move from 12 to 0. And just for prettiness sake, since it's probably this combat and end of it will probably be the last thing we do tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually pull out the air points. Go. Throw down 9, and we'll throw down clone. So we're flying in a bunch of sorties with Sky Raiders, F5s, you name it, are coming in, fighter bomber support. So we got 12 points from that. We got the choppers because we kind of suspected you were going to bird dog us. So that's a total of 16 fire for defense. Plus the 12 is 28.
Okay.
So we've got 28 defending. And now we look at the chart. Let's go to the ground combat chart.
So 37. You said 28 is your total?
Yep.
Okay, so that's going to be we're going to start at a 1-to-1.
Right.
So let's pull that up. All right.
Right.
Attack odds are not 5-to-1. Attacker's support strength is greater than the defender ground defense, which is the case.
Correct. You're also double, I believe. You've got 20.
I have 23. Is it actually 23? Hold on, let me add it up. 12 plus 5 is 17 plus 17. It's 24, which actually, that means I'm at 38 factors, actually. So I actually am exactly double.
Okay. So you're double. So that means you get a +4 so far.
That's huge. I am not attacking from more than 2 hexes. Nobody's patrolling or strung out. Nobody's disrupted. There's no mech or armor in that hex, right?
Nope.
Okay. The NLF force, if it contains unfixed units, which is the case, but all attackers are not concealed because I'm throwing that direct fire in there.
Right. So you just get the +1. Right.
Yeah.
So that's +5.
Yeah. Defending hex contains landed units.
Yes.
So that's the case. So +1. Attacking a U.S. command post, FSB, or U.S. base. That doesn't count here, right?
No, it does not count here. So you're at net +6.
Yep, that's what I got. All right. And then concealed units are participating in the attack. So that's a shift up.
To a 2-to-1.
Uh-huh.
Then I'm defending in a special forces camp, which shifts us back down to a 1-to-1.
Okay.
And then the terrain kicks in. So I believe Camp Minton is on dense jungle. Yep.
It is. So that's a minus. That's worth a -3.
-4. Dense jungle.
Yep. Okay.
So you are at a 1-to-1 +2 after all that.
That's still not too bad.
Nope.
All right. Let's roll it and see what happens.
Ooh.
Okay. That's a 4 plus 2 is a 6. So
AOS. That means the attacker's strung out.
all right. So this whole hex then, and actually this guy too.
Right.
Let's get the whole hex.
Everybody's strung out. So it's
All right.
not like being disrupted. You're just like you're not even disrupted. You're just badly disposed.
Yeah. So that could have gone better.
Right. So we'll pull off.
But there's a whole second wave of guys behind that one too.
Oh, I bet. So let's see. Now means intensity is going to go up. So you just attacked a special forces camp.
Mm-hmm. Let's pull that up. This thing. Okay, got it.
So the intent. All right. So what did it go up by for the attacking special forces camp?
2.
That's no, that's occupied. So attack is 1.
Okay.
So and nobody lost any steps.
No.
Right. So if we look at the RP, yeah, intensity just went up by 1. Although it's going to go up again because Mike Force is going to go up quick.
Well, I mean, Mike Force is going to come out. You're going to have a counterattack at some point.
Right.
It's going to go up quick because next turn there's going to be more than one NLF attack. Right.
It only went up by 1 because they what's it called? From MACD standpoint, they're like, oh yeah, they attacked Camp Minton, but 196 had reinforced it and they stiff armed them.
Yeah.
All right, good. Things are working out great. So that is the end of your operations phase. We should probably save it here.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're right on 8 o'clock. So
save game as
save.
Not in documents. Asshole. HBS. PG campaign. T1 end. NLF. Ops.
All right, we are saving.
Boom. We are saved.
Do we have any last-minute questions?
No, Kenneth T, it's not a broken arrow. It only went up 1 intensity because it was like, hey, they stiff-armed them. Nothing happened. Nobody took any losses. As far as we're concerned, it looks like, dropped off, everything worked. Defended the Special Forces camp, no problem. So
those guys, those air mobile guys can't be everywhere, though.
No. Well, they're not air mobile. Those are just normal infantry, but they can land at a Special Forces camp.
Okay, well, yeah, but you don't have unlimited air transport. Although you could do a lot with your air in a single turn. You still can't get guys everywhere.
No,
so.
I can just do the best I can.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if he comes in and he tries to attack me the first turn, I can drop it down. I'll defend that camp. Yep. All right, good stuff.
And based on the positioning, there's no reason for me not to hit that camp.
No.
So.
They're all So.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody.
Yep,
We'll let you know our skit. We're definitely playing Greek campaigns of the American Civil War. Continue the Chickamauga campaign
on Sunday. 2 p.m. Eastern.
And we'll let you know what we're doing after that then.
Yep.
But we're probably going to be flipping between that and Hot Dry Season for right now.
Yep, so that's the plan. So everybody stay tuned for the presentation video if you want to just watch that. That will be up sometime this coming week. So,
thank you, everybody.
All right,
Good
everybody
night.
have a great night. We'll see you on Sunday.